They're here. It might be a tumor.
It's not a tumor.
The Film Lounge presents...
Spoiler Free Movie Review!
First you gotta do the truffle shuffle. Come on!
with Chris Gooch.
I'm the dude.
Have you never met a man before? What about your father?
I had no father. I was brought to life by Zeus.
Right.
So, Wonder Woman is out at cinemas, and a lot is riding on her immaculately well-toned shoulders. Despite it being 75 years in the making, and the first female-led superhero movie, providing you don't count Supergirl, Tank Girl, Barbwire, Catwoman and Elektra, this film has staggeringly high expectations and trepidation due to it being the fourth film in the DC Extended Cinematic Universe. And putting it politely, the first three films garnered a mixed response. Putting it more accurately though, the first three films made the internet a very unpleasant cesspool where mostly angry and insecure middle-aged men hurled verbal abuse and death threats towards one another for a couple of months after each film's release. So, after a nervous wait for many people, it's Lasso of Truth time to find out whether there is room for a strong female hero in the capes and codpiece cinema landscape.
You will soon find out.
Wonder Woman is set in World War I, where we start in Themyscira, head to London, and find ourselves in the middle of the Great War. We meet Steve Trevors, a pilot played by the new Captain Kirk, Chris Pine, who crash lands on an Amazonian island. He meets Diana Prince, who travels with him to London to learn about the world of men and help win the war to end all wars. In between all this, we get something very different from the most recent DC films. It's colourful, meaningful, humorous, and most surprising, enjoyable.
How can a woman fight in this? Ooh.
Now look, we could waste our time talking about the similarities between Captain America the First Avengers war setting and the first Thor film's fish out of water plotline. But honestly, it's pointless, because you may as well just blame every other World War set film and fish out of water storyline for just reusing the same tropes. We could also talk about the undercooked villains and the overcooked final fight, but that's just par for the course with superhero films. You either go big or you go home. Or you have a really fleshed out villain to enhance the overall film, but at the expense of the hero's story.
As magnificent as you are still no match for me.
We'll see about that.
So, let's talk about what really separates Wonder Woman from the other DC films, and even all the other comic book movies. The film's incredible ability to convey empathy. Not since Richard Donner's original Superman movie have we had a comic book hero show such earnest and empathy. It's actually refreshing to go back to the storytelling of yesteryear, yet still feeling incredibly modern. Wonder Woman herself, along with Pine's Steve Trevor, struggle to come to grips with the horrors of war and even go as far as to show that it's not just black and white or good versus evil. There are also some great little references to Christopher Reeve's Superman with the obvious gender reversal twist, but still manages to make Chris Pine and Gal Gadot's characters equals as opposed to the old damsel in distress syndrome. Of course, in between all this fleshing out of war and gender roles back in the early 1900s, the film also takes time to comment on the inequalities between men in a man's world, highlighting how the colour of one's skin and entitlement really benefited white men. It's not laboured on, but it's still surprising to see that kind of commentary in a big tentpole blockbuster.
To the war.
Well, technically the war's that way, but we gotta go this way first.
The other really refreshing thing about the latest DC film is that the story has been put over the moments. Plus, every single moment feels earned. The film takes the time to breathe in the worlds of Themyscira and London. We get to know Diana Prince and Steve Trevor long before she takes to the battlefield. And when she does, it's an earned moment that sits up there with Superman taking his first flight or Batman's first big reveal. Unlike the other recent DC films, this doesn't rush through everything, nor does it expect the audience to have a detailed knowledge of Wonder Woman's comic book back catalogue in order to get lots of throwaway references. There's no dream sequence within a dream sequence, no sudden character personality flips, nor are there any Martha moments. In comparison to the other films in the DC cinematic universe, it plays it safe. But that doesn't mean that it's not still highly enjoyable.
If no one else will defend the world, then I must.
The film's dialogue can be a little clunky at times, but it is more natural than the other DC films, and many of the Marvel films. There is still pontificating and still a lot of expositional dialogue, but it is all delivered in a way that seems fitting and is often filtered around some good conversations and debates between Pine and Godot. Add to this director Patty Jenkins' work on television to still allow for the quieter moments that would normally get lost in big blockbuster films. From learning how to dance, discussing aspirations outside of being a soldier, to discussing social conventions. It's these smaller moments that make the bigger, more bombastic moments all the more meaningful.
If you believe that this war should stop, help me stop it right now.
Ultimately, this is the best film that's been released to date by the DC Extended Universe. Yes, at this stage, that's not an incredibly high bar to jump, but jump it does, and in the most spectacular fashion you could hope for. With splashes of colour in the right places, characters that you actually care about, moments that are threaded together between scenes instead of one moment rear-ending into another moment constantly, it feels like DC might finally be getting back on the right track. The jury is still out on the Justice League, and I'm still a little apprehensive about that coming out in November, but the best compliment I can give Wonder Woman is that this is the first film from the DC Extended Universe that I want to have in my Blu-ray collection. Wonder Woman, the film that's so good it could be mistaken for a Marvel movie, gets 4 marvelous stars out of 5.
Who is this woman?
You will soon find out.